Thank you for being here this evening and being interested in serving on the Planning Commission or the Finance Commission. We appreciate your willingness to come forward and serve. Not everybody is able or willing to do that, and there's a certain amount of daring involved in that, and then obviously subjecting yourself to our grueling interview process here this evening. So we do appreciate you making the time to do that as well. With that, I'll just talk a little bit about the process here. We'll do a round of questions from the council members. We also do have representatives of our commissions here that can participate in the process as well. And then at the end of that, we'll have a chance if there's anything you want to ask us or any additional information that we maybe didn't cover that you want to make sure we know in support of your application. Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into the questions. And our first question this time around will be from Councilmember Groff.
First this time. Thanks. Thanks for being here. How do your experiences and skills relate to serving on this commission that you're applying for?
Yeah, so I applied for two commissions, both the Planning Commission and the Finance Commissions. I know it ranks them one primary choice, secondary choice. However, that's really not the case. I'm equally interested in both of them, so be happy to serve on either. Regarding the Planning Commission, I have a decent amount of experience with working with like the city of Woodbury, where I previously was, developing some land, working with the city, doing partnerships with them to take the land, develop it, and then hand it back over to, when I left, to the University of Minnesota, as well as experience with companies, both large and small, organizing them, bringing people together, trying to find solutions to problems that exist, and trying to achieve a common goal with very differing opinions as well. And how do we, find the best way forward that everyone can be part of? I think that a lot of that stuff is similar to what I would find on the Planning Committee. Regarding the finance, again, my experience working with companies, basically my expertise is in working with startups, taking them from small companies to very large companies. That requires a variety of experiences and skill sets, one of which is very good budgeting, planning, projections, and then also a number of different financial instruments to achieve those goals. While not government related, but I think that knowledge of public and private will be applicable to that in government.
Thank you. Councilmember Schroeder.
Good evening. Thanks for coming in and applying. Why do you want to serve on a commission?
It's always been my belief that it's really important to be part of a community. So even when I was in college, I worked as an EMT on the ambulances in the fire department. That's continued when I moved. Then later to Woodbury, I worked with like the Parks Department there on different projects as well. One, because I think it's a history of that for my family of always giving back. Secondary, I really enjoy it. Right? I really enjoy learning more about the community, being part of it, and trying to achieve the goals. So it's really kind of a selfish reason, but I really just enjoy it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get involving our commission members and chairs or vice chairs right away in the process here. I don't know, Dan, do you have a question to ask in regard to the Finance Commission?
I'd love to hear, I know you briefly touched on the finance stuff in the companies that you've worked for. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. So my working with the finances, taking the aspects I've done is taking ideas and figuring out like how do we achieve that end goal, and that's both near term and short term. So near term, figuring out like looking and pitching investors to understand, and here's how we're going to achieve this. Here's how I'm going to use how much funds I need. Here's how I'm going to use those funds. Similarly, once that's done, and the normal legal documents and the normal operations of that business and accounts and whatnot, but then also later on posting results of that and doing audits and presenting like, okay, here's how do we meet our targets, we didn't, this budget's out of line, or this item went this far, and here's what we're looking for next, both in good times and bad. So when we've run out of money or need something, being creative and understanding like, okay, how are we going to show this and why did this happen, and being held accountable for those.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's unclear here. How long have you lived in Roseville?
Not very long. We just moved back, my wife and I and our family, from Berlin, Germany in September.
Okay, so about 6 months.
Yeah,
then.
about 6 months.
Cool. It's blank. So anyway, thank you. Let's see. I mean, you answered a number of these questions. Can you explain your understanding of the scope or duty of the commission specifically in the planning? It sounds like you may have a little bit better understanding, or you've kind of spoken more to finance, but of what the planning commission does for the city and how you would fit within that.
Yeah, my understanding of that is my job would be to act as kind of a conduit from the larger community on, funneling that information regarding decisions about planning, that would be like zoning, variances, developments, and gaining that information, find what might be the best way or most agreeable solution going forward, and presenting that to the council so then they can make an informed decision and just what to do. There's also part with planning, also with like the variance board as far as, actually executing, variances and that. But for larger ones, gaining public understanding and making sure the public's aware of it as well, so a decision can be made by the council that reflects the community at large.
Thank you.
And Vice Chair approval.
Well, actually, council member just stole my thunder. Yes, let's see. Yes, that is a good one. So sometimes the Planning Commission has to make a decision on an issue that is, that there are strong feelings, perhaps on both sides, from the public. Do you have any thoughts on how you would approach that kind of an issue?
Yes. Yeah, I would very much expect that with the Planning Commission happening, unfortunately, frequently. But a decision will ultimately have to be made one way or the other at some point in time. So I think it's very important with the parties involved that are disagreeing to agree to some kind of framework to reach that decision, right? So at least in the beginning, there can be some agreement between both sides as far as the process that was going to happen to achieve a solution. That way, both parties will feel that the voices were heard, it was presented in the best way that they could, and ultimately a decision was made, and that it was accurately and honestly reflected. The process was accurate and honest and presented to the council in that way. So they will be upset, probably both sides in some way, but at least feeling like the process was followed and it wasn't treated unfairly.
Councilmember Hatton.
Welcome to Roseville. Why Roseville for you?
So, one, my children go to school not too far from here. They're both, my wife being German, go to Twin Cities Immersion German School. And for that reason, we wanted to be in this area. We had spent some time in outer suburbs, and that just really wasn't what we wanted. Additionally, we've had a number of friends that have moved here as well, and we have spent a significant amount of time with them, and really have enjoyed it. And also being here, we spend a decent amount of time in this area as well, be it enjoying the parks or, walking or shopping, a multitude of different things. And so we've really enjoyed that. And so when we found a house in this area, we were quite excited about it and made the decision quickly.
Thank you. Great. All right. So in regard to, so this is a little different take maybe on some of the questions and answers we've had before, but in regard to either or both of the commissions, what about the work of the commissions really attracted you to apply for the commissions that you've applied for?
So with regard to planning, it's very exciting because the goal is to keep building a better community, right? And that's very exciting, and being part of that to make that happen and working through the process of, as you mentioned, sides that have very different viewpoints to try to make that happen. I really enjoy that kind of challenge, and I really like the outcome of it as well, right? And seeing the final product and making the community better than where it was, last week, last month, last year. So that part really excites me, and to be part of that and help with that process would be exciting. And with regards to finance, I really enjoy kind of that part of just kind of the hidden part of it, but like, it's the part that makes the city run, right? Like without the money and without the planning that comes with it and the budgeting and all that stuff, it can't happen. So it's really, getting the challenges of we would like to accomplish this, or we need to accomplish this, or there's this problem, and working with, a diverse group of people on that commission to achieve those, with a variety of points, be it what should the taxes be, or what should this be, or should we do this project, or how much, or can we move it from this budget? Those kind of challenges I enjoy as well, and trying to achieve, again, some kind of goal to make the city better.
All right, thank you, appreciate that. Is there anything I didn't skip somebody, did I?
You've hit everybody.
Okay, good. I thought I had started with you, so I just want to make sure. I'm trying to manage this well, but I sometimes lose track of things. Is there anything you wanted to make sure that you covered that we didn't cover through the Q&A this time around, or anything you have to ask us about?
No, I think it just really have no preference on either one of those committees. My interest was very much just in being part of it and to help out wherever possible.
All right, well, thank you again for coming forward, and we wish you the best of luck in the process. We'll be making our decision on appointments, at least for the Planning Commission, on Monday night. We've got a shortage of applicants on the finance side, so we're going to reopen that, so that'll be a longer process.
Understood.
But anyway, we'll keep you posted through the process, and wish you the best of luck. And certainly if there are other opportunities that you might be interested in to volunteer, whether or not you're appointed to one or the other of the commissions, certainly Rachel is your conduit for that, so get to know her well, and we really appreciate, especially since you're new to the community, anything you'd be willing to offer.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your
Thanks
time.
so much. You bet. Hey, hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening and for being interested in serving on a commission. You're applying for Parks and Rec Commission and also Public Works, Environment, and Transportation, correct?
Sure,
All
absolutely.
right. Well, what we'll do is a round of questions from the council members here for you, and then also an opportunity after that, if there's anything we haven't covered that you think is especially important for us to know as we consider your application, you can have a chance to let us know that, and or if you have any questions for us at that point.
Okay.
All right. So we'll get into the questions then, and first question this time around will come from Councilmember Etten.
All right, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
He's
thank
like, where's it coming from? Can you explain your understanding of the scope and duty of both commissions, both Park and Rec and Public Works, please?
Yeah, I guess I'm more familiar with Park and Rec and just serving as an advisory capacity to the Park and Rec Department on, what the community feels and needs from the Parks Department and the parks as a whole. And I think really just, probably focusing on the user experience and how the community as a whole accesses the parks, and advising on ways that we can make it better or perhaps even more open to access by our citizens. And that's, I think, what I'm most interested in. I think Public Works and Environment, I think I understand that that's more towards the overall kind of inner workings of the city, the streets, and those other things, as well as the environmental aspects of it. I guess that also intrigues me around the environmental aspects of it, making sure that we have a clean environment here in the city, and that the things that we do, on the streetwise and things like that don't necessarily negatively impact the environment. So,
Thank you.
Thanks. Next question from Councilmember Strong.
Given that information, what parts of the work of these commissions excite or are passions of yours?
Yeah, I think for me, Parks and Recreation are a big passion of mine. I've worked with Parks and Rec for a very long time in other communities, and right now I serve on the Roseville Youth Baseball Association Board of Directors. I'm the field maintenance director, so I work pretty closely with the Parks Department, making sure that the ball fields are ready for the kids, and I do a lot of volunteer work myself, dragging fields and raking and picking up rocks in the fields, and I've come to enjoy that quite a bit. And additionally, just, I live right on Central Park. My house backs up to Central Park, so my family, I have 3 kids, and we spend pretty much once a day doing something in the park. So I think that for me, I bring kind of an aspect of a super user maybe, because I spend a lot of times in the park when I'm, with my free time, whether it's working on ball fields or with my kids at the fields, and just being able to kind of provide that insight as a super user, I guess, to the the commission and then the staff and just kind of my input and then also of my neighbors because, you know, when you live as close to the biggest park in town as I do, neighbors all have an opinion on the park and what should happen and what shouldn't happen and hey, what are those people doing down there? So I think that I could bring that kind of aspect that of what the community thinks about what's happening in the park as well.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Good evening, thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Well, being a super user and being so involved in everything, are there any activities or amenities that you'd like to see added to the parks or the programs?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think we have a great diversity and variety of things already in the parks. I mean, every day I'm surprised to find, oh, you can do that in the parks, you know? I think from my standpoint and things that I've seen in other communities, I think skate parks are really popular and you see them all around, right? And I think for kids and I realize, you know, in the summer that they utilize the oval as part of a skate park, but you know, I think maybe little smaller skate parks around the community. I'm not a skater myself, my kids aren't, but I do know that I see a lot of kids who are and they're skating on things they probably shouldn't be skating on. And so if they, you know, even had more of that opportunity, I think that would be good. And really more also just opportunities for recreation, right? My kids have all done recreation programs through the parks. I would say, you know, that has probably been the one area that I'm not as keen on. It always hasn't been very organized or whatever. It's great, gets the kids out. I think it could be done a little bit more organized, and I would be honest about that, and at least from my experience. But we've done everything from, you know, soccer and dance to chess and things like that. So, you know, I think that I would like to see a little bit more organized and just more of a plethora of recreation opportunities outside of sports. I think we do a great job with the nature center activities and things like that my kids have done. So just kind of taking that model and maybe doing that more on computers. And we've had these great buildings now that the city has built, and how do we utilize those more for some more varied activities around for youth and adults overall. So.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Councilmember Groff.
Yeah.
Sometimes the commissions, or you know, either of these commissions must make a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
Yeah, I think, you know, over my career and work, I've learned, I've worked in politics a long time, right? So I think that, you know, what I've learned is you don't defend, you explain. You explain your reasoning, you explain why you feel, you know, that a decision needs to be made. You need to listen to what other people think. You need to let them know that they have been heard and take their comments seriously. But ultimately decisions have to be made, and there's going to be someone who likes it and someone who doesn't. And again, you don't necessarily defend, you don't, you know, say we're going to, you know, try our best to maybe get what you want out of that. If a decision is made, then you got to stick by that decision and you explain the reasons, and people, I think, have to take the reasons for what they are. And they still probably won't be happy, but in my experience, I think if you explain where you're coming from and it's not from a place of I just don't like your idea or opinion, I think people generally accept that or at least understand where you're coming from. So,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For the second time in a row, I get to ask the softball question. So what do you love most about living in Roseville?
I think for me and my wife and family, I think I definitely have to say the parks. I think the parks have been a huge thing for us. And I will be honest, we've talked about moving from time to time, but we could never find the location we have to the parks that we have, the community that we have, the neighbors that we have. And so we're, as my wife says, we're never leaving. And so I think that's probably the thing I like the most. Just the diversity of people and interests here in the city is something that I think that I like as well, and keeps us here and keeps us from, you know, maybe going somewhere else where it's not as a diverse group of people.
All right, well, thank you for all your answers this evening, and
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate once again your stepping forward. Is there anything you wanted to ask us about, or any aspect of your application or interest in service that you think we need to hear about that we maybe haven't covered yet?
No, I'm always looking for opportunities to give back and just be able to be a part of the community, and I'm just here to help. So that's kind of how I look at it in life in general. So if I can do that for the parks and the community, or whether it's public works, I would love to do that. So.
All right, well, thank you again, and
thank
we
you.
wish you the best of luck. The council will be making our decision next Monday, and staff will definitely follow up.
All right, thank you very
Welcome, and thank you for applying to be on the Parks and Rec Commission or the Human Rights, Inclusion, and Engagement Commission. We very much appreciate your interest in serving and willingness to step forward, and certainly to subject yourself to this interview process this evening. But we'll be as easy on it as we can. The process will involve a round of questions from the council members. We also do have our chair of the Human Rights, Inclusion, and Engagement Commission, Laura Palmquist, who will be involved in the questions as well. And so if you're all set, we'll go ahead and get started with the questions.
Please, thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Not a problem, and I forgot to mention that after the questions, if there's some time, we can allow you a chance to say anything else that we might not have covered in support of your application, or ask us questions if you have any.
Sure.
All right. Well, with that, then, the first question this time around will be asked by Councilmember Groff.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I guess the question I would ask is, how do your experiences and skills relate to serving on the Human Rights, Inclusion, and Engagement Commission? And I read a little bit about that, but I'll let you expound on it.
Okay. I'm a retired infectious disease physician. And so my entire career has been devoted to the needs, and not just the healthcare needs, of our HIV population and those that are concerned about having it, and others with STDs and so on. So I've always been incredibly sensitive to those needs and to the available community resources. Of course, this was out of Minneapolis, and most of these people were, or virtually all of them were, either in Minneapolis or western suburbs or southern suburbs. But so I've had 41 years of being able to serve those needs. I'm also a senior citizen. Almost all of our friends are senior citizens, although Karen is a good friend and she certainly is not. But, and we have quite a few who aren't. In the course of my work, I became very closely acquainted, actually, with a number of immigrants and a number of our members of our Native American communities. And they all had certain needs as well, and so sometimes they would ask me to show up and help with things that they needed or that their communities needed as well, although I wasn't really at any specific events or anything of that nature because I worked 7 days a week. But I could make referrals or references. I could call and make connections for them, and that with other people I knew, and that I was able to at least do that type of thing. So that has always been a focus of my life. And to have another opportunity to serve that need within our own community here is important to me.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, I hope?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Councilmember Schroeder.
Good evening, thank you for coming. I see that you like to garden, so.
I do.
So, of course, I'll ask a question about the Parks and Recs then. Are there any activities or amenities you'd like to add to the parks or to the Recs programs?
Okay. I've given that exact question some thought because the opportunities within our parks right now are amazing to me. I moved down to Roseville from Arden Hills 5 years ago, so I've always been familiar with not just these two communities, but the other surrounding communities. And the parks in Roseville, first of all, the amount of space that's devoted to parkland in Roseville, the Arboretum, which really doesn't exist except for the University of Minnesota large Arboretum down in Chanhassen, just amazes me, and we're there all the time. I also volunteer over at the Nature Center. Rachel can tell you what things that I've done over there. And I love being a part of that. So something new and different is very hard for me to think of. So one of the things that really delighted me was watching the development of the inclusive parkland on the Victoria side of Central Park. When you were able to do that, I thought, this is where I want to live. So I think you're mostly doing those things that are absolutely necessary. So the only thing that I might want to see added, excuse me, when I talk too much, the only thing I would want to see added would be availability when people are utilizing parts of the park and rec system to have available information, either in take a card or plaques or stands that talk about the Native American community or things that have occurred in Minnesota or Roseville history related to minorities, and you can see where I got the ideas for that, your committee. But anyway, so that people and children especially can learn. We're in an environment now politically where there is a major effort, and fortunately not here, but in other parts of the country, to suppress history, to suppress diversity and diversity relations. And I think the more education that we can do, the better off we are. So I might want to see some educational events and educational materials that are geared towards different age groups and different groups of people. Other than that, I really, because you're already doing so much and I love it, I'd just like to be able to help to see that continue.
Wonderful, thank you.
Chair Palmquist.
Thank you again for applying. My question for you is, what does the word commitment mean to you?
Devotion, because there are so many kinds of commitment. There are commitments of time, commitments of attitude, commitments of even financial commitments, which, because I'm on a fixed income, I can't do a lot of at this point, but I can help somewhat. And also considering and leading your life towards the care of the community and everybody that's around you. That is commitment to me.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Strawn.
Okay, I'll take the softball then. All right. So what is it that you love about Roseville?
Everything. That's not a good answer because it doesn't describe anything, but we move out. Let me tell you why we decided to move here after raising our children. We were looking we've always loved Roseville, so we really were looking almost exclusively in the Roseville area. And it had to do with the people in the neighborhoods that we were looking at, but it also had to do with general location, because we're so close to everything in the entire Twin Cities here, and it's easy to get to for someone my age and getting older. But the park system was a huge part of it. We do a lot of walking on the trails, and the maintenance of those trails is amazing, by the way. And the boardwalk in the Nation Center is 2 blocks away from where we live. The most important thing to me is the emphasis that the city puts, and that the things that you all do with the city council and other things that you do, the emphasis on not just maintaining, but developing new programs always with a thought towards diversity and inclusion. And that's really, I don't want to live anywhere that doesn't have that. So we were very drawn to Roseville mainly for those reasons, but there are other smaller reasons as well. Yeah.
We'll put you in the promo, don't worry.
All right, and I don't believe, Councilmember Graff, that question got asked, did it? Okay, all right. So one of the non-softball question is the commissions, both Parks and Rec and Human Rights Inclusion Engagement, sometimes will be considering matters or making recommendations to the City Council on things that might be controversial and may have a number of people perhaps at a commission meeting speaking in opposition and support of. And so what would be your approach as a commission member in terms of sort of dealing with those controversial issues and the people and the emotions involved?
I dealt with that for my entire career, because I've described to you what my career has been. And we've had a number of people who have shown up in my office quite belligerent, who weren't part of the practice, but not liking what we were devoted to at all. And so the important thing is you keep yourself on an even keel. You listen first. Always listen, listen, listen. And then engage in a way that's respectful, even when you 100% don't like what you're hearing. Because that will always happen. So you want to listen, you want to engage, you want to find out, you want to point this person or group that's coming at you with something that they don't like. Most of the times it's an emotional issue, so you want to point them towards the rational aspects. You want to say, where did you get your information? Can you give me some information that supports you so I understand how to make a decision and take you into account? That's how I've always approached that kind of thing showing up in my office. So I don't think it's much different when you're dealing with it in a council or commission.
Thank you. Just a few moments here. Is there anything you wanted to make sure and let us know about in support of your application? Any questions you have for us?
Not at this point. I listened to your state of the city and the amount of work that you all have to do, the knowledge that you have to have, the understanding of so many different things that you have to deal with, from budgets and finances and where do you raise that and how do you get the volunteers when you need them, where can you raise support when you need something that has to be done and you don't know how or where to get it, and all of the different issues around development and parks and inclusion, and there's so much. It's huge. I have to respect all of you so much for what you do. I honestly don't think that I could, as devoted as I could be to it, I don't know that I could give it the time and input that would be necessary for me to do what any of you does. And then the last thing is I really appreciated meeting both of you at our house on night out, because my wife and I do coordinate the neighborhood. So
I'm glad we put that one on the list.
We do. And you showed up, both of you were there.
Yeah.
You showed up and I thought, wow, this is fantastic.
Great. Well, and thank you so much for coming forward once again and being willing to serve. And I did just want to say, in regards to all the praise that was just heaped on us, I think we couldn't do it without all of the help that we get from people who are in the community and provide that willingness to serve on advisory commissions and things like that. That's really important too. So we are just the faces a lot of times of so much that happens behind the scenes, but we appreciate that, and we certainly try to pass that praise on as much as we can. So thank you, and wish you the best of luck. We'll be making our decision on Monday evening, and staff will definitely follow up. going to give you a quick synopsis of the process here, and then we'll get right into it. But want to certainly start by welcoming you and thanking you for applying for the, and I just have to double check my notes here, Parks and Rec and Planning Commission, and your interest in serving and willingness to be here this evening for this process as well. It really is helpful to get to know people as a part of making our decisions, so appreciate that. We'll do a round of questions from the council members. And then at the end, if we've got a little bit of time, we can give you a chance to ask us something if there's something you'd like to know, or if there's a particular aspect of your application that you think is very important that we may not have covered through the questions. You feel free to let us know that as well.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with the questions, and this particular round of questions, we will start with Councilmember Strong.
Thank you. So can you explain your understanding of the scope and duties of the folks, especially on the Parks and Rec, but also on the Planning Commission, and kind of beyond just the title of Parks and Rec, but what is your understanding of what they do and how they operate as a team?
I'm glad I did my homework today. I read the Parks and Rec have something on there. It was like a cheat sheet for new members, and I was reading through there, and we are representatives to the community. It's good that we're involved and we know what's happening in the community. By the way, my family is firmly planted in Roseville, like firmly. We just put on a huge addition on our house, so we're not going anywhere. Well, huge to us. It might not be to anybody else, but and as I was reading through the Parks and Rec, there's a lot of things we're responsible for. And I just dropped my son off at youth group before coming here, and he was like, "Well, what do you do, Mom?" And I'm like, "You're representing the community and the voices and the decisions that need to be made. And did you know they deal with the deer population and our beautiful parks, not only the programming and there were some others in there, like the weeds." Do you know where I'm going? And I looked at them and I was like, oh, there actually is a lot that the Parks and Recs are responsible for. And I love working in a team. I love to brainstorm. I love to talk things through. And I think one of my strengths that I could bring is I'm really involved in the community. I know the pulse of my neighborhood. I have kids in this city. We've lived here almost 12 years, and I think that perspective, especially since we want these parks to be around for a really long time, I think would be a really good benefit. I don't know if there's any commissioners right now with young kids on there, but I think that's just something that experience would really be a benefit. So, and I golf at Cedar Home Golf Course, so I was just on the focus group last week looking at the, the new vendor they're gonna have here. So that was really neat to kind of be part of that, and I met some of the other commissioners too. And Doug Hogg, and there was one older gentleman right next to me, and very young gentleman. And we were talking, and they were talking about their experience on the board and how they enjoy it too. So I guess I'm just looking for something more to volunteer in. I've done pretty much a lot of things. I've worked with Rachel. I've worked with Debbie Cash. Oh, she retired. That's great, but you know, and I'm talking a lot about this question, but I'm looking to get involved some way more and not just be an innocent bystander, because I don't think I am, you know? So.
Are you able to speak at all to the Planning Commission and your understanding of what it is that they do?
I know it's planning Roseville, you know, and what's the future of Roseville going to be? And I know that the parks are planning until 2030. There's some kind of thing. I probably should have done my homework, but to tell you the truth, out of the two, the Parks and Rec is more where I would feel more comfortable with and for my skill set.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Good evening. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
So with all the parks and the different programs that are offered, are there anything you'd like to see added?
So the ROG, I was saying the wrong name, the ROG, I think is such a gem in the middle of Roseville. But I don't know if it's been used to the best of its ability. If you walk by those concerts are maybe half full, not even. I was actually in Pirates of Penzance last year, so we performed there, and I was actually kind of surprised. I know marketing has a point of it too, but I think we could make that a much bigger gathering place. I have children, 8, 10, and 12. All the kids in our neighborhood stay inside. I try to send them down to go play with them. Oh no, we're busy doing our thing. And I just feel like we need to get our kids back in the community again, seeing people. Enough with this COVID stuff. Let's really find ways, actual ways, that people can gather and can get involved. I mean, I love that the Nature Center always they have 3 times a year, they have classes for kids, and then every Wednesday, my kids and I will go up there, not every Wednesday, but we go up there and work, and that's like an easy in. So I guess that's one thing I just really think Roseville could do more with, is having easy ins for our kids and family events, and just utilizing that ROG has been a big thing my husband and I have talked a lot about. He did the sound there for a while, so I guess we kind of have a heart for it. I also want people to be safe in the parks. I had a situation 2 years ago where I was exposed in the parks, and that was scary. Like, here I am in a community, and this is happening, and there wasn't like a button for me to push or any way to like let somebody know. I was kind of stranded there, you know? And I think our parks need to be a place where we have each other's backs. This is our community. And really in Roseville, because we're not like a small town, like that's the only place we really see people, you know, outside of a church or a store or something.
Thank you.
Councilmember Groff.
Thanks for being here.
And you say your name Groff?
I do.
And I say Graff.
Well, you got the A and I got the O, so.
Oh, yeah, but yeah. I can't see. I knew
very
that, but it was
confusing.
close, because some people will just hear me say it, and then
they
they're
usually
like.
pronounce my name Graff if they don't, you know,
Yeah.
I get that a lot, so.
It was close, yeah.
So the question I like to ask is, now you're talking about 2 commissions, so one's the Planning Commission, one's the Parks and Rec Commission.
And I guess I'm pretty much focusing on the Parks and Rec right
okay.
now, yeah. I just think that would be probably a better fit. I mean, of course, I see the longevity of Roseville, and we use all the facilities and things, but I think, yes, probably Parks and Rec.
So the question would be, sometimes the commission must make a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feeling from the public,
Yes.
perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
Because I am a community member, I talk a lot to people. I do. And I think if we knew there was something coming up, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be scared to have a discussion or maybe have some town halls about it. I know you do that, but a lot of times there's these new park like feedback things. And I went to one about 8 years ago, and there were 3 people at it. But the one I was at on Monday, when I was for the focus group, they had one, and it was like a full house. So I think just hearing from the actual community, and then talking as a group, and really trying to figure out what the cause and effect could be for the community, and not being afraid to make the hard call, because we see the whole situation, I guess, as board members. We see the financial side and the state side and the government side. So I know we're going to get flack, but if we're making an effort to hear from others and to make the best decision, I think that's where I would advocate. I'm not usually like an arguer, but I think it's good to talk things through and really figure it out. So it's kind of a hard question.
That is a hard
especially if you, I mean, I've been in some really, you know, we'll just say high-stress workplaces. My background is in broadcasting. I worked at AM 1500 for 8 years, and then I moved over to Northwestern. And right now I'm working at the state capitol as an interpreter. So I give tour guides. Yes, I do. Tours for all ages. So you kind of see like the stress that comes through and like the hard opinions and I saw the protesters for the last couple of weeks with the hard things, but that's part of being a citizen and it's part of respecting one another in our differences. Easier said than done, though.
Thank you.
Councilmember Atten.
Thanks for being here. What part of the Park and Rec Commission, or serving on that commission, would most interest you? You've talked a lot. You've answered like all of our questions through your other answers, but what is that area of interest or passion within being on the Park and Rec Commission that's most interesting to you?
Again, getting kids out and maybe matching them up with, don't we have a large senior population in our community? Really, because the kids don't come out in our neighborhood. Our kids go over to the widower across the street, the older couple that has a one of those little book things on the park. The library. That's what they're called. That's what my kids do, and then we do the National Night Out, and because I kind of live in the neighborhood that's just west of the American Legion. So it's like if you go in there, you're there. It's kind of like a big circle, and so we have a great National Night Out. Over 100 people come, and we make sure to invite the police and the fire. And I want to keep that energy going. There's something we could do. Like, how can we continue being active neighbors and active participants of the parks? Why aren't we going through the parks and picking up the garbage we see or cleaning up something? And again, I guess I'm talking about that small bite, that small opportunity that you could do this. Like, I can't necessarily go do a buckthorn clear out, but if it's my job to walk through the parks and clean it up, or my kid's job, They did have a bird thing a couple years ago about counting the geese. Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, it was kind of neat. There were like signs all over, and it was like, we need people to count the geese. And my kids were so excited to be part of that. So there's opportunities that I just think that our family would enjoy and other families would enjoy too. If somebody else plans it, we'll come.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions you have for us or anything else you want to make sure we know about in support of your application?
It's how long for a service?
It's a 3-year
3
term.
years, yeah.
And then eligible for reappointment for one additional.
Okay. And I know you just are trying to find who the commissioner is now of the Parks and Rec. Didn't they just switch over, right?
Right, we always have, turnover because there's terms aren't all
I
at
was
the
talking to
same
Rachel
time,
and she
yeah.
goes, it was this gentleman, Doug, and now.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is there's actually 2 vacancies. One of them might be a partial term and one might be a full term.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's up to the 3 years. And obviously if people can't make it the full 3 years, we find somebody to take their place.
Like I said, we're not going anywhere. I told my husband, I'm like, we are committed to this community for 10 years. We got 10 more years for sure. And my kids actually go to private school right now, but that's just because we've had the public schools didn't quite work for my kids' needs. And my kids are still active. They're still, they walk to and from school and they're making use of these parks, and they are such a gem. And just having this as part of Roseville was just part of the part that we were here. So thank you very much.
Yes. Well, wish you the best of luck, especially this is your second time around applying.
Yeah, it would be nice. If not, I'm good too.
All right. Well, we'll find, maybe we can sign you up for trash pickup or something like that.
We'll get you a dump.
Your willingness to come forward and serve on the, I believe it's Planning Commission this evening.
Yes, thank you.
And for being here as well to go through the interview process with us. We will do a round of questions from the council members here. We also have our Vice Chair of the Planning Commission with us who will participate in the process as well. And then after that, if there's anything you want to cover that we maybe didn't get to in the questions that you think would be especially supportive of your application, or if you have questions for us, we'll cover that at the end.
Okay, that's
right.
fine. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you just fine. And
Oh,
we-
good.
Hear us okay?
Oh, yes.
Okay, just.
Well, you know, we got to make sure our mics are working, right?
Well, yeah, we are recording it for purposes of anybody who couldn't be a part of the, or who will be part of the process, but who couldn't be here this evening, so they can watch the video. With that, then, we'll start this round of questions with Councilmember Strawn.
Oh, okay. So what interests you in wanting to serve on a commission, and what kind of experiences do you have that you bring to the Planning Commission that interests you in participating?
Well, my principal experience is that I'm a trained, licensed, and retired attorney now, and that I like to think I'm proficient in applying the law, the existing law, to any situation, taking into account all the factors, but sticking pretty close to how the law is intended to be interpreted. In addition, I've chaired a number of state and national commissions and have been a volunteer in the city of Roseville on some of our commissions, or not commissions, but organizations. So I have a personal interest and appreciate the good government in which I see coming out of City Hall these days.
Thank you. And thank you.
Oh, I would like to add that because of my background on city and commissions for the state of Minnesota and the federal government, I have a respect for the staff work that goes before any kind of commission meeting. And I think that's what I wanted to say, just an appreciation for the staff.
We don't say it enough, that's for sure, but it's absolutely critical that we do that, acknowledge that. Vice Chair Pribble.
I appreciate your comments about applying the law to the situation. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, sometimes in the Planning Commission, we do have challenging situations where there might be a group of people vehemently opposed to a proposal and a group of people very supportive of it, and how would you navigate that as a Planning Commission member?
I think one of the most important aspects of being a citizen in a community is to have respect for the governing body. And you have respect when you feel you've been heard, that your perspective has been acknowledged. And most people realize that once they're heard, if they don't get the resolution they would like, they feel satisfied that it's been a fair process for them. And a lot of people in our country these days don't seem to feel like they're being heard. And I've always taken time with my clients and in my committees to make sure people have a good experience.
Thank you.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Good evening, and thank you for applying. This is blank, but how long have you been in Roseville?
Well, my wedding anniversary last month was 25 years, and I moved into Roseville the day after my wedding.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
And I've never moved out, so.
25-year honeymoon in Roseville.
For Roseville, right.
Well, you've had a lot of experiences with other commissions and things, and why did you end up choosing planning over some of the other commissions?
Because I kind of track what City Hall is doing and the mayor's office, and I see Roseville as being challenged to adopt more technology, more process, be aware of more issues, in its planning and the people that come to Roseville being more diverse and more expecting our city to be future-oriented. And that creates a lot of excitement in me to be part of that so that things continue to function in the future for us. I notice you have a program going on right now. I believe it's called Envisioning Roseville. And I took the time to read some of the comments, and some of those comments on there would or could apply to the Planning Commission in the future. Such as, making sure our environmental issues are addressed by the surfaces of our roads and the number of businesses we have, the density of our housing, for example. These have impacts in many areas. And we have to, the city will have to incorporate technology, politics, sociology, culture, many things in order to be a vibrant community.
Thank you.
Councilmember Groff.
Thanks for being here. I'm going to do the easy question. What do you love most about living in Roseville?
Well, that would be a hard choice. As my husband often says, do I have to choose one? I love the parks. I walk off my calories in Central Park most every other day, and in the summer, I was on the Friends of the Roseville Parks for quite a few years. I love the animals and the nature we have here and the upkeep by the Parks Department. I love the diversity of people. We have so many intelligent people, and we're beginning to see people from different countries and backgrounds. As global travel expands, people are interested in coming and living in Roseville. I love the fact that we're close to the Twin Cities, but not in the Twin Cities. I can get on a freeway really fast, but I don't have to fight, end-of-day traffic. Those are some of the things I love about Roseville.
All right, Councilmember Bratton.
Thank you for being here. What part of working on the, Planning Commission would be most exciting or interesting for you?
Oh, what part? It would be interesting to hear the discussions among the members of the commission after we've reviewed the staff work and start to address and resolve a problem. I love the ability I think I have the ability to apply facts to a problem and come out with a logical solution. And not doing that all by myself in this situation, but hearing other people's perspectives and learning from them would be a real growth opportunity for me.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is the questions. Is there anything you wanted to ask us or anything you want to make sure and emphasize in support of your application?
I just want to say that I'm so impressed as to the changes that the city is exhibiting, how you are encouraging people to voice their concerns on your website, and the fact that you're using technology like those, what are those, Q spots,
Yeah.
Boy, I was doing that today with my new Google phone, and I was flying. That's a smart city.
Great.
But thank you for your time today.
Well, thanks so much and wish you the best of luck in the process. We'll be making our decision on Monday night, and so staff will be sure to follow up. Well, welcome and thank you for being here this evening and being willing to be subjected to being re-interviewed for your application for reappointment to the Human Rights Inclusion Engagement Commission. You kind of know the drill probably from past experience. We'll do a round of questions from the council members as well as from your chair. And then if there's anything else we need to cover at the end that we haven't covered, or if there's a question for us, we'll have a chance for that as well.
So I'm hoping you pay more attention here, because the only other time I got interviewed, I had a severe AFib attack just before I came into the room. And afterwards, I'm thinking, why did I say that? Why did I answer this way? Why did I answer the question that way?
Oh, my goodness.
But then I didn't get appointed, but then someone resigned, and then I got appointed. So, so whatever happened, there was at least enough redemption in that, you know.
We're glad you're upright.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, don't do that, yeah.
Was that for the commission appointment?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
my
it
goodness.
was, yeah.
We never knew. We never knew. You really acquitted yourself well.
Well, that's my acting background, you know.
Wonderful. All right, well, we do have a round of questions to go through here, so we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start with Councilmember Adam.
What was something you've learned while serving on the commission in the last 3 years?
Well, there are a bunch of things, but the biggest thing I've learned is that things move slowly. I knew they moved slowly. I was on the school board in New Jersey for 4 years, and things moved slowly there. Everything moves slower than what you want it to do. You have a lot of interest, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of ideas to move forward, and it takes time to do that. There is an advantage to moving slowly, but it's frustrating in many ways because I want to get this done. I would think this is something we should do that. And the other thing that kind of goes along with that is balancing aspirations and reality. The things that I want to do or things that I think we as a commission should be doing, and what's real, what can we really accomplish? And getting that in balance, I think, is a difficult thing to do, but I think it's one of those things that we strive to do, and we end up, as a commission, I think, end up balancing those two things pretty well. But it's just personally, it's like, I want to do this, I think we should do this, let's move this, let's do that, and knowing that it can't always be done on my timetable, my timeline.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strong.
So what would you consider to be a highlight of your time on the commission?
Can I give more than one?
Sure.
Okay. I think the first thing that I thought of was helping to move the process of the commission on from when I first started, from being a group of people who got together who talked, to being a group of people who got together who were looking for action. And not just talking about issues, but saying, okay, yeah, this is a problem, or this is something we would like to attack, and then let's do something about it, instead of just identifying the problem or the issue, but actually trying to move forward in, I say attacking them, not necessarily solving them, but attacking them and see where we can go and how far we can go in solving the problem or addressing the issue at any rate. Oh, something else. The other thing was the conversion therapy ban. I think that was a really significant thing that I believe started within our commission, and then we're working forward through working with the city council and Pat and everybody else, to actually bring this to fruition and having the council vote on that. I think that was a very significant thing, and just recently I heard in the news, I think Minnesota is considering doing that, and I'm thinking we were ahead of the state, in thinking about this as an issue and something that should be addressed.
Chair Baum.
Okay, we've talked about it a little bit, but what is your definition of commitment?
Commitment is showing up when you say you're going to show up. Commitment is following through with the promises or the things you say, I will take care of this or I will do that. And then actually doing it. Again, I understand that there will be it's not always a straight line, that there's often a zigzag you have to go in and to get to that final position. But I think it's the idea of living up to your word, saying, I'll be there and to be there, or I'll take care of that responsibility and take care of that responsibility. So that's what I see as commitment.
Wonderful.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your service so far.
Oh, you're welcome.
Really appreciate it. My question is, what do you think Roseville does well?
I think Roseville has, I've said this from the first time, actually I would talk to Wayne at the gym, and he told me about the Human Rights Inclusion Engagement Commission. And I thought to myself after that conversation, this is a progressive city, because not every municipality, not every city, not every community that's together thinks it's important to think about human rights and to think about engaging the city with the people, which is, you all know, a super hard task. It's really hard to do that and to try to find out from the populations that that live in Roseville how we can encourage them to come involved in the city. It's a two-way process. It isn't just one thing, but I think that I think that's basically what I believe about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Groff.
Thanks for being here. What are you looking forward to most if you are reappointed working on? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Right. This is a little preview to what we're probably going to talk to you about later this year. But
Sneak preview.
the essay contest has not been going well. Last year we had two submissions. This year we had one. And so we've talked about within the commission itself to make a presentation to you to say, we'd like to take a year back from this and try to study it and figure out why isn't it working, how should we change it, if we can change it. Because even though it seems like a small thing, we probably spent nearly 100 person hours on doing this thing that one person submitted a thing to. I believe it's valuable. I believe it's valuable trying to get something, but we're not hitting the mark. We're not really finding out. So I really look forward to heading up the group, because I've been with this group almost since the beginning as one of the members of the essay commission, essay subgroup. So I think I have probably the most information and the most experience of anybody on the commission to continue to work with this. So I think I want to try to find out what's worthwhile. If we're going to spend time, it might be more worthwhile to spend time reaching out to not students, reaching out to parents in some way, or reaching out more to the schools, or whatever it may be, that we just need to have kind of an assessment period, an assessment year, to try to figure out what we should do and how this should work better, or how we hope it will work better.
Thank you.
I'm trying to figure out how to word this exactly, but from your work on the commission that the commission has had to go through some perhaps growing pains or evolution of how things work or how perspectives fit into things.
Right.
And I think I've gotten the impression from your earlier information and answers to questions that you feel pretty good about where the commission is at right now. And I can say I think the council feels pretty good from our last interactions with the commission as well. So I guess the question is sort of related to that. What are you excited about for the future? I mean, are you feeling good about about how the commission can continue to grow together and work together as a commission and in their service to the city and to the community more broadly?
I do feel good about the commission. Just a little personal note, I'm the primary caregiver for my wife, and I have to arrange somebody to be there with her when I go out, and like this is not that long, so I can be gone, and my phone is on in case there's a problem, for that. But my feeling is that if I can make it to the meetings, and if I can make the presence at as many citywide functions as I can, then other people should be able to do that too. And I think what holds us back the most is and I don't think it's laissez-faire, because I think everyone on the commission is really committed to the goals and to what we're trying to achieve. I don't think there's anybody who's just there for what, to put it on their resume that they were a member of the commission. But I think that we can only move forward if we all make the commitment, that Laura asked me about. If we all make the commitment to show up to the meetings so that we have a quorum every month, and to say, if I'm going to Juneteenth, that I show up to Juneteenth. If I say, recognizing that there are things that come up. One commitment that I made, that my wife was having a particularly tough time, and I couldn't go, and so whoever it was, I had to notify them that I couldn't make that particular one. But I think that was the only time I can think of that I didn't go when I said I was going to show up for it. So I think that's the challenge. I think that I believe we are committed. I believe that I don't have any questions about anyone who's a current commission member. But it's that idea of following through, and of being there and of showing up. Like you guys, every time I go to your council meetings, it's like you're almost always there, every one of you, And it's more time that's spent there than we spend, as an advisory group to you. So I do feel good about it, Dan. I do feel that we are on the right path, we're on the right track, and that there are a lot of good ideas that come, but again, building that aspiration in reality, making those happen that way. I think that we help each other to get to that point where the ideas that we have can actually come to fruition. Great.
If you're a
Excellent
full,
answer.
if you're a full team, how many people are you?
9.
It's supposed to be 10 plus 2 student
But
representatives.
the youth commissioners,
Yeah.
depending
Adult
on if they.
commissioners is 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one resigns, and
And we've been averaging about 5.
just enough.
We didn't
Yeah.
meet from October to February.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't make quorum.
We stayed and talked.
Yes.
But it was not official.
No official action, right,
Yes.
right. Well, thank you again for serving on the commission, especially knowing the sacrifice that you have to make to be at the meetings and things like that. We certainly wish you and your wife all the best.
Thank you.
In your endeavors together through her journey with you. So appreciate that, and we'll be making our decision on reappointments on Monday, and we'll follow up with you and let you know.
Okay,
But
great.
Well, thank you very much for being interested in serving, and you've applied for both Parks and Recreation as well as Public Works, Environment, and Transportation. And so we'll try to cover both topics this evening. We'll do a round of questions from the council members here, and then wrap it up if there's time with anything you might want to ask us about, or if we didn't cover something that you feel is important for us to know, we can hit that at that point as well.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll begin then with the questions, and for this round of questions, we'll start with Councilmember Schroeder.
Good evening, thanks for coming. Looking at your application, you talk about you want to ensure that the city's parks and recreational facilities are positively impacting people's health and well-being. What would you add or enhance or do differently in our Parks and Recs area, either the park or the programs or something like that, to help with that vision?
Thanks. That's a good question. I think a couple of things. One thing that I also have interested in with the PWEC committee or commission is just connectivity between parks, and having more pathways and longer, trails that people can ride bikes on and just kind of get, more exercise on. But I think, so in terms of just adding connectivity between trails, between parks, one thing in specific parks that I've seen in other places that I like a lot are, exercise areas, places with equipment that you can exercise on outside. But also, I think, signage, even just about nutrition or, just generally healthy lifestyles. I think finding places in the parks to give that information to people. And then I guess the other area there is providing programs at parks that are maybe based in parks that emphasize healthy lifestyles. And I think geared towards all ages, but especially children. I have a young son myself, and we try to instill that in him and in what we do. And just, I think parks are a great place to provide programs and opportunities for just educating people of all ages about living healthy and sustainably.
Wonderful, thank you.
Councilmember Strong.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to work a question around this paragraph in what you wrote. You mentioned that you have a bachelor's degree in Parks and Recreation Management and information about policy and governance. I guess, how do you see that impacting work on a commission, and kind of what avenue do you think you'd use to pursue that within the Parks and Rec Commission?
Yeah, thanks. And I think a big part of something I've tried to write in my application too is I'm a social scientist. My job, I work at the University of Minnesota. I study people's attitudes about natural resource issues, conservation issues, sustainability issues. And a lot of my work has been going to parks, national parks, state parks, and trail systems, and doing surveys and interviews with the public and visitors there, and just to understand their perspectives on the experiences that they're having and their attitudes about management of those areas. And we just published a paper we did a study in Oregon where we looked at, we compared visitors' attitudes and adjacent homeowners' attitudes about off-leash dog behavior and leash laws in that park, just to kind of compare, like, do visitors have different opinions than people who live right across the park? So I think about that.
Feeling was hanging.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's always complicated, but overall, not huge differences. But adjacent homeowners do prefer stricter leash laws, and they tend to have more strict leash behaviors for their dogs. So I think that kind of plays into, I guess, my big interest in my careers is engaging with people and about public resources, public land, public programs, and understanding their perspective on those resources and those programs, and communicating, as a scientist, communicating that information to land managers, city officials, county officials, federal land management officials, policymakers, anybody for the given for that topic. So I think, I guess, that's my form of where I think my expertise is in engaging with people. I love to be involved and observant of things around me, and I come at it from a scientific perspective of tracking those observations scientifically, and again, communicating that information to people who can make decisions with that information. So
Great, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Hatton.
Thanks for being here and your clear passion for these things. Can you explain your understanding of the scope and duty of these two different commissions, both Parks and then Public Works?
I can, yeah, and I think broadly, as a commissioner, it's my understanding that commissioners kind of have multiple roles, advising city councils and city officials, as well as sort of being an ambassador to the city, and an ambassador to the public and residents here, and businesses and those kind of things. So it's a great position of kind of being able to connect people and connect ideas and share ideas, and just represent the best interest of everybody, including the city. So I think overall that's really important. And then as far as the focus too, I think generally across both of those committees, just big level things like that are really important, and I think are the focus of these commissions, are ensuring equal opportunities for everybody for these different programs. So equity, inclusion, I think are just really important, that should underlie any commission, as well as sustainability, health and well-being, and then I think just speaking in the best interest of the public and of residents. And I think obviously the focus of each committee is influenced by a lot of specific plans, whether that's the comprehensive plan. I've looked into the 2040 comprehensive plan. As a social scientist, I've closely followed Envision Roseville. I've engaged in it a lot. So I follow those different plans. I know Parks and Rec has master plans. There's all these different plans. So I think all of that, influences the focus of the committees. So specifically, Parks and Recreation, I think the commission there is to influence people's, just the programs, facilities, activities that are being provided by the city, and again, to make sure that those are being opportunities provided equitably across the community in terms of just different people here and everything that makes this community unique and special. And so, and Public Works, and I'm just going to call it PWET because I can, I'm really interested in sustainability, sustainable systems. I ride my bike to school every day. I work at University of Minnesota, St. Paul campus. So I live over by Acorn Park. It's been an adventure trying to figure out ways I could safely get my bike there. I think I found a pretty good path, pretty good route, but so I'm very interested. I'm always looking at the maps and plans for that type of infrastructure, but that's really opened my eyes into just all the infrastructure programs around here with water and other utilities and transportation systems. I think, so I think a big thing of both commissions, especially the PWET commission, is just thinking about resilience too, resilience to change. I study people's attitudes about climate adaptation strategies, specifically for managing fish and wildlife. But more broadly, I realize climate change is going to affect a lot of things, and especially public works, utilities, systems need to be sustainable and resilient to those changes, and so do people. So. I'll stop there. I know I think they both have pretty clear focuses, but those are kind of the main things that I see that make them unique.
We've got maybe a couple moments. Is there anything you want to make sure and let us know about? What? Did I skip you? Oh, because I started with Rob. I forgot all about that. I'm sorry, Councilmember Groff. And you've got the question, right? Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. The question I have is a little different twist to it. It's sometimes the commission, or commissions in this case, must make a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong public feeling from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
Yeah, I like that question. As somebody who studies public attitudes, we deal with that constantly, and I think it's great. I think that's what makes cities strong, and to have different opinions. So I think in my situation as a commissioner, I think first thing would just be able to be ready to refer them to proper city officials or city councils or ways that they can get engaged, and just official people. I think being clear that I'm not a member of the city. I just want to make sure to be able to direct them to decision makers as needed. But I'm also, I think more importantly, to me, the big thing is listening. And that's just, I want to be there to listen to their perspective and understand their viewpoint, and also help them understand other people's viewpoints. So to listen, empathize with them, make sure that they're heard and that they know that they're heard, and just engage with them. But I think being transparent too, I think that's really important. And I think as a commissioner, I can help with transparency. It's specifically helping to explain why decisions are made and what considerations went into those different decisions, so that they can understand what happened and why something went a particular way. And then I think just ending on just being positive and making sure to keep it positive and encourage them to be engaged. So thanking them for expressing an opinion and just caring enough to, whatever that opinion is, but they cared enough to share it. I think that they need to know that that's really important and helpful, and hopefully they stay engaged and committed and just share that things change and they're decisions might come around the other way, or there's other ways they can maybe have their perspective heard and influence decisions that way in the future. So,
Thank you.
basically, just try not to make things worse.
Always think that sums it up really. Well, I'm glad I didn't, that you caught me, so you got a chance to get that answer to that question. With that, then, is there anything you wanted to make sure we know about as in support of your application, or any questions you have for us?
First of all, just definitely thank you for the opportunity here. Really excited for this. I moved here a year ago with my wife and our son from Colorado, and we moved here to be closer to family. We've moved around a lot in the last 20 years and kind of been waiting for an opportunity to be engaged. We bought our first home. We're here for the long haul, so family lives really close. To me, it's just really important to be civically engaged like this, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that because I was never, planning to stay somewhere very long. So, yeah, here for the long term. Really excited about being engaged in different ways. I'm starting to be I'm a recycling ambassador for the county, so just looking at different ways to meet people and get involved and just stay in tune on what's going on around the city.
You might want to look up this Dale Howie guy at some point, too.
And I was going to say, in terms of, I'm glad that you're involved and engaged in the Envision process, and I think offline here, we'd love to hear a lot more from you based on your experience and your areas of expertise. So we'll definitely make sure we keep connected with you on that.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, and best of luck to you in this process. We'll be making our decision on Monday night, and we do have a lot of applicants for a smaller number of positions, so always encourage people, if you don't happen to be appointed this time around, to try again. And also, as Rachel can connect you with all kinds of activities of varying types of commitments, so we encourage you to take advantage of all those.
I've hauled some brush already.
All right, good.
A few places. So
Wonderful.
good. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yep. All right, well, we'll give you a little bit of a heads up as to how we're going to do it, and then we'll get right into it. We'll do a round of questions from all the council members here, and that'll provide an opportunity to kind of, hear more and flesh out information that's in your application. We also want to give you a chance at the end of that, if there's anything we haven't covered that you feel is important for us to know, you'll have a chance to let us know that, and then certainly if you have questions for us as well, we want to give you a chance to ask those as well. But we'll start with the questions for you.
Okay.
And help yourself to some water if you need it or anything like that. But all right.
I apologize. Last time I didn't take any notes before, but I realized it's such a short time period that I wanted to make sure I got my points.
Oh, no. That's absolutely fine. Preparation is always a good thing. With that, then we'll go ahead and start this round of questions with Councilmember Etten.
Thank you for being here. She's got more notes.
Sorry, yeah.
I hope we asked the right questions. Certainly you've been involved with our parks some in recent years. Can you talk about that involvement and then how that is leading you to want to serve on the Park and Rec Commission?
Yeah, well, I started volunteering, I can't even thinking, it was last November, I believe. I don't know, time goes so fast. But so currently I'm volunteering at Hank, and I also am on the Envision Roseville committee. I do the help with the display cases at City Hall. I also I wasn't a volunteer, but a vendor at the Wild Rice Festival. And I also do just other odd jobs and stuff for 4th of July. I helped with the games for the 4th of July in the park and stuff like that. So if there's any odd things they need help with, and because I live very close and I have time, so I'll help out whenever I can. But experiences, I guess, working for now, as long as I've worked at Hank. Growing up in Roseville, I was never really, I knew, in high school you run around, you go and play outside. I didn't really know how much the city offered as much as I know now. And I really think that, I really like the way they really have a lot of opportunities to educate children and adults too in the community. And to also just how many events and parks and the buildings there are that could be utilized for the community.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Strawn.
What parts of the work of the Parks and Rec Commission most excite you or are part of your own personal passions?
I'm not sure if you find where I put this on my notes. What parts of the parks and, okay. Well, I guess growing up here, like I said earlier, I love it even more. And I'd really like to serve on our commission. I really get excited about Roseville and everything it has to offer. And I want to help with new and current opportunities and also to get the word out to other people, knowing as how I grew up here and didn't know how many things there were. And I know there's even more now than there was, back in 2095 when I graduated. Not to show my age, but I don't care. So, I don't know, it just really excites me to just how great the parks are and everything and how much stuff is out there for people to learn and just, I don't know.
In the past, you had mentioned something about a native heritage, your own personal native heritage, and do you see yourself putting some of that toward our?
Oh, of course, definitely.
And the parks, and how do you see that kind of connecting to the Parks Commission?
Well, I think, the Nature Center, I think, is really, really good with that, and I don't think they get as much credit for as much, education they bring to these kids, and the kids are really, I don't teach to I'm not in those Sprouts classes or any of those field trips or stuff, but I can see how interested they are in the things that they create, and I'll always, a lot of times they'll come to me and have me look at them first, and I just think, wow, those are cool, and those are things that even their parents could do at home or with other kids, super easy crafts, just teach simple things of a culture that's, I'm very happy to say, it's getting known more about the history of it. So even I was Debbie Cash and Joe, or actually it was Fred, who was a volunteer, showed me a book that was there about history, the Gibbs Farm Museum. I'm going there since I was in elementary school, and I never knew the history of it. So it's just things like that, I think.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Well, thank you for all what you've done and been involved with so far. That's awesome. And I know you've, seen enough things around. Are there anything that you would like to add to the parks? Or even, well, I know you talked a little bit about the programs, but do you think we're missing anything in the parks that we should add?
Well, I did have a few different ideas too, and I don't know, maybe they're already out there and I haven't seen them, but one of my side notes I have on here, I know technology is a given. That's where everything's headed towards, but I still think that kids, to get them away from the screen more often as they can and away from video games and screen time, and I know they need to be on technology. I grew up with one of the first computers. My dad had one of the first Macs. My dad's a huge technology guy. But I still could not. I hated my worst time of the day was when the streetlights came on because I had to go home, So I thought of different things, maybe even just going through some of the different parks and having look at just little things that happen to be there and or even the parents could print something out on the website as a scavenger hunt for this park, and they could walk their kids through and look for things just to get them out involved, and it wouldn't be anything they'd have, they could just print it on there and be like, oh, what kind of scavenging, let's try this park, and have the kids and make a little fun game out of it and give them something fun to do besides just taking a walk in the park. They can actually look for something or hope to see a bird flying by. So I don't know, that's one of my ideas. The other one too is, it's not really Parks and Rec, but it's a lot of growing up in Roseville and having coming back and moving back here after all these years, and all the people that I went to high school with have moved back here. There's so many, and knowing their family members and them, and as well as they have had businesses in Roseville that have been here forever, So, and a lot of for instance, an example would be, I don't know if you're familiar with Dave's Auto, which apparently is going to change to Troy's. How he puts those decorations up every holiday, and he's the live reindeer, and he's just and he he's just one of those people who just wants to get the community involved. And I think might be a lot of other businesses out there too that would, might be interested in that too. I mean, that's not really, I don't know if that's really part of Parks and Rec, but it's more community involvement.
It's all connected, though.
Yeah.
So thank you.
He's my neighbor. He's great.
Is he? Who, Dave or Troy?
Dave's been gone for quite a while. Troy's owned it for a couple of years now.
Oh, yeah, I just got my car.
Troy lives like 2 houses down.
Yeah, I actually just made him some wild rice soup the other day when I picked up my car, and he's like, oh, I've never had real wild rice before. He's super nice.
All right, and Councilmember Groff.
I've been asking a question that deals a little bit more with if you were serving on the commission and there's an issue that comes up needs to be addressed by the commission and there's public involvement. So the question is, sometimes the commission must make a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feeling from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
Okay, well, when I read that question, I instantly thought of when I was back in college, taking some classes that discussed some controversial subjects, and you have to figure out how to, basically, I say it all, I'm like, choose your words. So the way I would always do it was, the first thing I would do is I would make sure that I would understand all the aspects of the topic at hand. And then that's where I would choose my words to explain this idea or proposal in a way that is easily understood to everyone, or try to make it as easily as understood to them as possible. And then after that, ask questions or suggestions from all the sides to try to come up with a happy medium. But do it like in a calm, neutral way, not like this is what we're going to do and this is what we're going to do. So, there's no leeway here. I mean, I don't know. That's just, I mean, I was in an African American studies class, and the one thing of the professor, he was like, they said he always wants you to raise your hand. Well, it was a really weird setup because the tables are set up, like tables a little bit longer than this, one row here, and one row way on the back. And it was weird. It was like all of the fraternity students on the side and kind of all the minority students on one side. And I walked in and I'm like, where do I sit? So I went to the back table and I sat like right here where I'm sitting. And the only time I'd raise my hand was when I knew exactly what I was talking. I could cover up everything else. And I went to his office hours. I said, I know you like people that are very vocal, but he's like, I understand when you say something, you understand what you're saying. So you're fine. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But I don't know, that's the way I've approached those things, even in hospitality industry. And, I've been the middle person a lot in different restaurants, between management and other coworkers, where kind of keep the peace.
Thank you.
Well, that's an important role for sure. Well, I want to make sure and give you a chance if there's anything else that we haven't covered through the questions and answers, or if you do have any questions for us.
I guess one question, I know, part of the, being part of the commission, is attending the meetings, participating in them. Are there any other meetings besides the ones, like I know I said, like the first Tuesdays? Are there other meetings that should be like done that we wouldn't be, if I was chosen, wouldn't be involved in, that I should look online for agendas, or would you let?
It's generally the commission meetings are the meetings per se that you're going to be most involved with, but especially on Parks and Rec. And I, of course, a former member of the Parks and Rec Commission can speak to that maybe better than I can. But certainly all summer long, there's opportunities to voluntarily choose to participate in things like the weekly Discover Your Parks events, which is a great way to get out into parks and see people in the community and things like that. But it's not something that's, I don't believe, mandatory for members of the commission. And then sometimes if there's a particular issue or area of study, there may be outside meetings by maybe a subcommittee or a larger community group that you might be appointed to be a representative to or something like that, but that's going to be, fewer and farther between, and certainly optional to be involved in, as to whether you want to volunteer to do those types of things. So the main thing is the commission meetings, and certainly, and then there is a couple times, maybe 2-3 times a year with the Parks Commission, they do also a joint meeting with the council just to kind of report and kind of do a back and forth a little bit. So those would be on Monday nights when those happen, but it's not all the time. It's just a few times a year. So.
Okay. All right. I guess my other side note that I have is just kind of one of my things that I believe in. About communication, I guess maybe because my degree was in web design and technical communication, so I was basically the middle person there to basically taking technical terms and relaying them to people that didn't understand them in the right way. So I guess when it comes to communication, it's always been an important aspect to me. I kind of feel it's like an effective way to help accomplish certain goals. The other thing I have learned that following through with the community, let's say they let you know, they have a suggestion or an issue and they talk to you, let's say they email you or do the Envision Roseville or whatever, even if you're probably not going to go that direction, but just to follow up to let them know that they've been heard, it's after all different medical things, it's I just want an answer. Just let me know you heard me, even if you're not going to go through, just, because that's one of the things I put on my notes when I did the Envision Roseville. If I talk to somebody, I'm going to make a note, if they wanted, I'm not going to press them for information, but, just write down their name and let them write down their information. And if they want me to get back to them, then within a week or two, get back and say, I just wanted to let you know that I presented your idea. So, I don't know.
It's very important. Thank you. Well, we wish you the best of luck in the appointment, and we'll be making our council decision on Monday evening, so not too long from now, so you'll be hearing from staff as a follow-up. Thank you for being here this evening and for applying for the commission, the Public Works, Environment, and Transportation Commission. We appreciate your willingness to serve and also your willingness to subject yourself to the grilling that we'll be giving you this evening. We'll try to be easy on you, though. We'll do, just so you know kind of what the process is, we'll do a round of questions from the council members here and then give you an opportunity at the end if there's any information you want to make sure we know about that supports your application that we maybe didn't cover in the Q&A or any questions you might have for us. We'll have a chance for that at the end. And I should introduce Laura Palmquist, our Human Rights Inclusion and Engagement Chair, who will be participating in those interviews as they come up right after this. She was here a little early, so she gets to be a part of the process and observe at this point, but I wanted to make that introduction. With that, we've got a round of questions to start, and so this round we'll start with Councilmember Schroeder.
Thank you for coming in and applying. Appreciate it. My question is, in regards to the public works, what area do you think needs more attention and why?
My biggest point that I think about is walkability. I think in a suburb or any suburb, it's hard to have walkability, so you need to have more of a focus on it then to make sure it's included. Just being able to get around. Not everyone wants to or has a car, or just to be able to get to other transportation options, make things a little easier on people.
Councilman Groff.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
What do you love most about living in Roseville?
I think there's a lot of variety in Roseville. There's a little bit of everything. There's the business areas. It's not just a bedroom community. There's There's the skating center that's nationally recognized that we're in now, and then there's the many parks. I don't know how many, but there are a lot. And you can do more or less anything you want to do, and if it's not here, we're pretty close to anything else you would want to do. So there's a lot of opportunity here, I would say.
Thanks.
Councilmember Eck?
Thank you for being here. Why do you want to serve on a city commission?
I think I have a lot of experience, at least in this area, and so it's one way to help other people. I think people who are able to and have the will to do it should help people where they can, and I have 15 years of experience as a civil engineer and as volunteering in various things, so it's an area I feel like I could be of service.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strong?
What part of the work of the Public Works, Environment, and Transportation Commission excites you the most, or are you most interested in?
I think I'm excited by the fact that it says Public Works and Environment together, that to me that means that they're being considered equally important, or at least it needs to be considered when you're doing these things. That it's not, that'll be taken into account when the council or whoever else makes decisions on how to do the infrastructure for the city.
Right. What's that? I was just going to go to the next question. So sometimes commissions make recommendations to the city council on issues that might be particularly controversial, or there's a lot of varying opinions in the community about that particular issue or matter that's being recommended to us. And so sometimes we'll be in a meeting with members of the community who are sort of vocal about varying, differing points of view. And of course, then the commission has to ultimately take all that into account and make a recommendation to the council. Can you talk a little bit about how you'd approach that, both maybe in terms of weighing all the different points of view, but maybe also how just actually being in that meeting and dealing with the process, how you might be able to help that process work better or whatever?
Sure. I would say people are looking for transparency, probably as one of their top things they want to see. Even if they don't agree with you, they want to know how you reached the decision. I've worked with various city engineers, and then we had to go before city councils and do things like assessing people for doing their roads, which was never a popular thing, or improving their roads and then taking part of what they would consider their property, even if it's in the public right of way. I think if you give people facts and you're transparent about how this came about, and sometimes you need options to say, well, if this doesn't work, here are what the things, and get some input, not just have the solution that, well, I've thought about it for forever and I know that this is the best. You need other perspectives as well.
Thank you. So that's the questions. Not too bad, hopefully. Is there anything you wanted to ask us about, or anything you wanted to especially highlight about your capabilities, interests, or whatever that can be supportive of your application?
Ask, I guess, so my understanding of this is that it's a commission that would advise the city council, and then the city council makes the decision. So and I guess this is open to anyone, what would you see as the most important part of the people being on that commission? What's their most important duty?
I can maybe start, and then council members can correct me if I'm wrong. I think probably the most important thing is that you're a voice for people in the community that might not otherwise be connected to the process, whether that's your friends and neighbors or associates, or whether that's other people in the community that you hear from. And I think that's the main reason we have these advisory commissions, is to get a broader perspective on the issues and make sure that we're connecting with as many people in the community as possible before we get to a decision point at the city council. And so I think that's, at least from my perspective, how I see the commission's role as being very important. Feel free to elaborate. Or
I feel like I look at it as it's a smaller group that's able to take a couple issues and really look at them very closely. We have so many array of items that we have to make decisions on, so we're kind of relying on the expertise of the people in the commission to help guide the decisions based on when they have an opportunity to study it, maybe see it more times than we would. So we're taking their decisions and their opinions as guiding our decisions.
any other thoughts from council members on that?
And those are both great.
All right. Any other questions or any other information you want to share?
I believe that's it for me.
Okay. No pressure, no worries. Just always want to make sure we provide that opportunity as part of the interview process. So, and I think this might be your first time applying for a commission with the city, so thank you for taking the chance and being daring to do that. As I always do, especially for first-time applicants, we do have a number of people applying, and we only have one vacancy to fill this time around. So, want to make sure that if you don't get appointed this time, that you don't leave the process so discouraged that we don't see you again. I think many of us can speak to having been multiple applicants for one opportunity, and that speaks to that you have to do that, and that also, in addition to serving on commissions, there's a lot of more sort of ad hoc and shorter term ways to be involved as well. And so encourage you, if you happen to not be appointed, to take advantage of those. Even if you are appointed, take advantage of those. We want everybody at the table, and everybody rowing the boat, so to speak, to borrow an expression. So appreciate your interest in doing that, and we hope to see a lot more of you in the future. So with that, thank you again, and wish you the best of luck. We'll be making our decision on Monday night, and staff will follow up. Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for stepping forward as an interested person to apply for the Human Rights Inclusion and Engagement Commission, Second Choice Planning Commission, and for subjecting yourself to the interview process this evening. We really do appreciate your interest. We as a city know you a little bit already through your involvement in the Grow Roseville process, so we're grateful that maybe has spawned interest in further involvement on your part, and so happy to see you here this evening. So our process for the interviews, we'll do a round of questions from the council members, as well as our chair or vice chair? Chair. Yes. I lose track of all that. There's so many characters in the play here. So, but Laura will be also participating with a question as well. So we'll do that, and then at the end of that, if there's anything you want to make sure and highlight in support of your application or any questions you have for us, we'll have a chance for that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll start the questions then if you're ready, and the first question in this round will come from Councilmember Strong.
Thank you. So you share a lot in your application, but what is it that interests you most in serving on especially the HRIEC Commission?
First of all, thank you for having me here. I just feel ready, some intuition from inside my heart. If the same opportunity like I had heard a few years ago, I think I would have been scared, nervous, whereas right now, being here for 12 years. I'm originally from Nepal, so have only lived in Roseville in different capacity. I say myself as an immigrant. I've lived there as a student, as a renter. I volunteer a lot, and now as a business owner, I just feel like I have that experience. I have met so many people from here, from every ages. Now as a new mom, going to school and learning so much and hearing so much, and I love to talk. And, and then I just feel like I'm ready to serve. I just feel like I can give back. I want to do something more, because this Roseville has given me a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Etten.
Thank you for being here.
I thought you would sing for me. do a music for me?
Have a duet. She does her homework. What would you like to sing?
You don't do the singing, you do the choir stuff. So it must be heavy that I don't know.
What happens?
Something in Nepalese.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. You never know what'll come out. All right. Can you explain your understanding of the scope and duties of the Human Rights and Inclusion Commission?
It's just loving people, accepting people the way they are. You know, this Roseville is very diverse. We use the word diverse and vibrant so many times. But to really understand that, to feel them. And I, as a minority Asian myself, I've gone through so many ups and downs, so many hatred and so much of love and acceptance. And I just feel like with my experience in this position, I would fit well because I'm ready to share my story. I feel like I'm full of texture, I'm full of experiences, and I feel like I have so much to learn. And I'm willing to bring a lot to the table at the same time, being honest, being me.
Can I follow up for the role for the Planning Commission then too?
For the planning, it's lots of listening. You know, 12 years, I've observed a lot. I've served seniors the most. But I was an activities director for 7.5 years, and when there was a question where it's like, why Roseville, right? Why do I even live in Roseville? Why do I want to serve Roseville? Just as an activities director only, I never had to plan activities for seniors outside Roseville. May that be for live music, may that be for indoor activities, may that be going to go for a movie theater. We have everything here. You know, that already says a lot. So being in that position, you're not just talking about today. I feel that's an honor to think of the future. You know, I'm like, that's a gift that I can give. You know, we're not just thinking of today, having all this position and what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Groff.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Sometimes the commission, and it could be either commission I'm talking about here, must make a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feeling from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
By listening, by giving them the time, by just hearing their voice. People just want to be heard. So listening as much as possible. I don't have the answer right on spot, but we have the whole team, right? In every field we have a team. So I'll say, I'll get back to you, getting the information. And that I've learned so much with my work experiences. We come in every job, there's so many people saying what they want to say and stuff like that. I might have the answer, but I've learned not to say the answer, being a talkative person, to observe and saying, may I get back to you? You know, and then to do that, the most important thing is please get back to them. And as all of your positions, you know, as a human being, get back to your mom, get back to your daughter. You just, hey, I'll bring cupcake tomorrow. Why did you not bring that cupcake? Just say that to that 5-year-old. It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so the cupcake came. Yes. I'll pick it up at 7:30 tomorrow. But I think I would listen, let them vent as much as possible, and to let them know that I will get back to them, is what I would do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Thank you for applying. And I was looking at your application, and you talk about Roseville experienced a lot of growth, but in few areas we still need to fill the gap. Could you talk about what those gaps are you see?
Yes. Let me share my experience. Again, I have extra love for seniors, but then as a new mom, now I'm starting to look and put my extra attention in school and daycare as well. Just a few years ago when I was going to the DMV and we were going through all these COVID situations, you know, I saw so many seniors had to stand to wait for their time. There's not even a chair there. Whereas the White Bear is ready for seniors. Their restaurants are ready. We are not yet ready. We still need to focus on senior, so we need to take care of seniors. Because here we'll all be seniors soon. Let's be ready for us.
Some of us sooner
you
than
know,
others.
yeah. So at the DMV right there, I think we just need a chair, or we need to have that extra time just for the seniors, so they don't fall right there. You know, just because so many things we have had to make changes, and I feel like we are not yet equipped for seniors.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Chair Palmquist.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
Oh, can you switch the mic? I'm sorry,
yes.
that's right. We had that
Thank you.
instruction early on, and we completely forgot about it.
Sorry about that. My question is, what does the word commitment mean to you?
Honesty, integrity, and that time. And just being you, you know. You don't know, you say you don't know.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. And to wrap things up, specific to the Planning Commission is very much about sort of interpreting existing laws and codes and standards and requirements. And so there's a lot of, having to sort of compare what somebody is applying for with what our requirements are and making sure it either does or doesn't meet that and then recommending to the council on that basis. Can you talk about sort of maybe either in your experience what might have prepared you for that or what your sort of plan would be in terms of dealing with that and especially all the reading involved in preparation for the meetings and things like that?
Sure. For that department, when I applied, I thought like, not only do I bring to the table, I'll get the opportunity to learn. So I think it's mutual. Because so many things are already happening in Roseville. So sometimes just to say, yep, you guys are the new person coming and saying you guys are doing a good job, I feel like people who has worked so hard to be where you guys are would be so good, right? So I'll just be that uplifting person saying, yes, that's good. You guys are doing well, that energy. Everything doesn't need to be changed. Lots of good things are happening.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding us of that.
Yes.
All right. We've got a few minutes. Is there anything you wanted to ask us about in relation to either of the commissions or any information you want to make sure and highlight for your application?
I studied a lot about you guys since yesterday, and I just commend you guys for giving your time for Roseville. I just want to say that. And I love the cameraman so much. He is awesome. He's just so sweet.
He's so used to that.
We all love him too.
Everybody loves him.
My question for you guys is, I'm very, very, I'm very, very honored to be here. 12 years, a person who couldn't speak English. 12 years was lost, abused in an apartment. And today I come from a home. While taking shower today, I said, Lord, I don't need this position. But for Rachel to believe in me when she came to see me and said, hey, you could volunteer here. I wanted to volunteer at a sweetheart party and stay in the line. Yeah. But she taught me something valuable. So this is so much more that I have no words to describe, So I want to say thank you for giving me this confidence, for being able to be here. And no matter I get this position or not, doesn't matter. I'll be Gina, I'll keep serving, I'll keep talking, I just say, hey, that was wrong, I don't care what they tell me. And I'm enjoying being an American. I'm really enjoying being an American and being a women American. It's just an honor to do that. So I want to ask you guys, why am I here? Why did you guys give your precious time to interview me? I'm sure many people applied, right? And you have this few people on the list. So why do you think I'm here? Why do you think I deserve those positions?
I think the quickest and shortest answer is that everybody in our community needs to be able to have a voice in what we're doing. Because as you well know, what we do impacts everybody in the community.
Absolutely.
And so I think, very much are pleased that you're here and that you're wanting to be a part of it. Because I think that's one of the things we recognize as a challenge we have is actually connecting with everybody in the community that is impacted by what we do. So I think that's why you're here.
Yeah.
I just want to add, the 5 of us aren't going to live forever.
Yeah.
So there needs to be people who look different than us, who fill these spots in the future. And without the opportunity for people to start, there's not a place for people to see themselves. You didn't see yourself here before, and you maybe didn't see yourself here.
Yes.
I'm not getting rid of them. I mean,
No, we're wondering what's going on.
You should see yourself here. At some point.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
that's why.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And then this last few weeks, one person came and at least 15 people have showed up to my little store, and this says so much about the city people. You guys love to share the positives, and people just come and give hugs. This weekend we had 3-4 people. I'm like, wow, you guys talk about the positive. That already says a lot about the city of Roseville, and I want to be a part of it. Yes.
Great.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.